Tonight, a grisly discovery southwest of the city.
We have located one body and have made an arrest.
Police recover a body and are searching for another in the case of a missing Markham couple, while the hunt continues for a second suspect wanted for first-degree murder. Plus,
sometimes a strong dissent, especially if it's just 5-4, turns into the majority very quickly next time a case comes up.
in a narrow 5-4 decision, the Supreme Court of Canada rules Doug Ford's cuts to Toronto City Council didn't violate the Constitution. We'll have reaction. And
first reaction is it's about time.
We don't think that this approach of discipline or termination is the right way to go.
Ontario announces it will mandate vaccination for all staff and volunteers in long-term care homes, but reaction is mixed. We'll explain why. Good evening, I'm Kelda Yoon. York Regional Police have recovered human remains at a landfill near Sarnia. The discovery is believed to be connected to the disappearance of missing Markham couple Kwok Tran and Christy Wynn. Police say tips from the public led them to the site and helped them make the arrest. But as Dahlia Ashley reports, a search is still on for a second suspect.
A grisly discovery by police at this landfill southwest of the city this afternoon.
At this point, we don't know if it's a male or a female. The remains of the body are being investigated through the coroner's office.
The body recovered at Twin Creeks Landfill and Environmental Center near Sarnia is believed to be that of either 37-year-old Kwok Tran or 25-year-old Christy Wynn. The Markham couple went missing almost 2 weeks ago. Police are continuing to search for a second body at the same site. The discovery comes as police announce they've made an arrest in connection with their disappearance. 36-year-old Ricardo Liberd of Vaughan has been charged with 2 counts of accessory after the fact of murder.
This is a situation isolated, and foul play has taken part in this incident.
Police say there is, however, a connection between Liberd and another suspect they are searching for. A Canada-wide arrest remains in place for 35-year-old Phuong Thanh Nguyen, who is wanted on 2 counts of first-degree murder. Police said they believe the two were murdered at this commercial building in Vaughan and that they were targeted.
There is a connection between Mr. Nguyen and the current person that has been arrested.
Police say Phuong Thanh Nguyen, who also goes by Mike, is considered armed and dangerous. Police are encouraging him to find a lawyer and turn himself in. Anyone who has information on his whereabouts are also asked to contact police. Dahlia Ashley, CBC News, Toronto.
The Supreme Court of Canada has upheld the Ford government's decision to slash the size of Toronto City Council in half. In a 5-4 decision, the court ruled that the move during the 2018 municipal election didn't violate the Constitution. Ardell Manukduk now with details on the ruling and reaction.
In the decision, the majority found that according to the Constitution, the province was within its right to change the rules because municipalities are not guaranteed effective representation.
The 1867 Constitution said that municipalities are creatures of the province. Well, in 1867, we did not have big cities. We did not have major urbanization.
In 2018, the province passed the Better Local Government Act, which took a 47-ward map down to 25. It forced several candidates to pivot their campaign strategy, but the Supreme Court decision says there was ample time. Evan Tumilo ran for the old Ward 17, which became Ward 4. He originally had to knock on 23,000 doors.
And immediately that was bumped up to 52,000. I mean, that's a lot of extra doors to be knocking on and reaching out to constituents in a very small period of time.
Why not 25 councillors?
Premier Ford said fewer councillors would make local government more efficient. In a statement, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing Steve Clark writes decisions are being made faster and more efficiently thanks to a much more streamlined process at the City of Toronto. Councillor Joe Cressy says there's too much time spent in council chambers and that the tens of thousands more constituents make it difficult to connect.
The faces of our council, including my own, don't reflect the diversity of our city. And that was something that was a real tragedy in the last election. We were expecting, and I was hoping to see a sea change, a generational change.
The dissent in this case was written by Justice Rosalie Abella, who said the timing of Ford's law violated freedom of expression in the Charter.
Sometimes a strong dissent, especially if it's just 5-4, turns into the majority very quickly next time a case comes up.
The next municipal election is October 24th, 2022. Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Toronto.
Yesterday, we brought you the story of families calling on the government to implement vaccine mandates for all those working in long-term care homes. Well, today, the province announced it is doing just that. But while the move is being applauded by many, as Lorena Redicott reports, one healthcare union is calling it a mistake.
First reaction is it's about time.
Maureen McDermott has been pushing for all long-term care workers to be vaccinated. Her mother contracted COVID in long-term care. She's since died, though not from the virus.
I can say pretty confidently that we would have saved some lives if we had mandated this in January.
As of November 15th, vaccinations will be mandated for all staff, support workers, and volunteers in homes. They'll have to show proof of both doses.
Staff who don't show this will not be allowed to work inside a long-term care home.
A long-term care worker received Ontario's first ever dose of the vaccine, but months later, some other staff are refusing it or have doubts. Of the province's 627 long-term care homes, the minister says 367 have staff vaccination rates of less than 90%. At 99 of them, it's less than 80%. Rod Phillips acknowledges some staff will likely quit over this in a sector that already has staff shortages. But he says it's the right move.
Instead of losing 5 or 6 staff who might not want to get vaccinated in a regular-sized home, in a night they can lose 20 or 30 who have to be quarantined because of an outbreak.
The vaccination rates at all homes will also be publicized. While some unions support the move, one says it goes too far.
We think it's the wrong approach. We don't think that discipline or termination or mass exodus of workers in the sector is what the sector and the industry needs right now. Like I said, we have an unprecedented staffing crisis at the bedside. Without a plan to replenish workers, that kind of a policy makes no sense.
She says they've been holding education sessions to encourage vaccination and have another one next week. The association representing nonprofit and municipal homes has been hoping the government would do this.
Homes that are smaller have a harder time being able to mandate vaccinations because you need to have legal expertise, you need to have financial resilience because there could be a lawsuit.
She wants the government to extend the mandate to the rest of healthcare, including retirement homes. Maureen McDermott is disappointed that the policy doesn't include long-term care visitors and essential caregivers. Lorena Redicott, CBC News, Toronto.
Canadian fashion mogul Peter Nygard is now facing criminal charges in Toronto. That news coming the same day Nygard agreed to start the process that could see him extradited to the United States to face a sex trafficking charge. Canadian officials are working to have Nygard sent to the U.S. on a charge of trafficking in persons. He is facing 9 counts in New York.
Mr. Nygard denies any allegations of criminal conduct. He denies any suggestion that he engaged in conduct for which he should be charged criminally.
Nygard's lawyer, Brian Greenspan, was in a Winnipeg court today. Nygard himself is in custody and appeared via video link. Nygard was arrested last year. He's accused of using his influence in the fashion industry to lure women and girls with promises of modeling jobs and other opportunities. Nygard's extradition now goes to the Justice Minister, who will make the final decision on whether it goes ahead. Peter Nygard is also facing sex charges in Toronto. Toronto police announced today that the 80-year-old is being charged with 6 counts of sexual assault and 3 counts of forcible confinement. Now, police say the charges date back to assaults that are alleged to have taken place between the late 80s and mid-2000s. There are 6 women making the accusations. It's not known if the Toronto charges will affect Nygard's extradition proceeding. He is also the subject of a class action lawsuit in the U.S. involving 57 women with similar allegations. Well, 2 weeks after opening their investigation, police in London, Ontario say they have not been able to substantiate allegations of drugging and sexual assaults at a Western University residence. Online allegations of sexual assault during orientation week circulated on social media last month. They claimed up to 30 young women were drugged and sexually assaulted. Police say officers and Western residence staff spoke with more than 600 students, and no one has made a formal complaint. They say they will keep the investigation open. Colette Kennedy joins us now with a first look at the forecast. And Colette, a beautiful start to October. Couldn't have asked for a nicer, sunnier day.
Yeah, just a gorgeous way to begin. And it's because we're still hanging in there with this ridge of high pressure that's really been, with us all week. And primarily, we've seen good weather. A little more cloud cover yesterday, but who's remembering that, right? Now, what's going to be happening is we're actually going to see the temperatures kind of spiking further tomorrow, but our ridge of high pressure is leaving us too. So let's just take a look back at this morning and all the single digits. This was at 6 a.m. Kitchener down to 2 degrees. Remember those frost advisories, warnings I had for you last night? You see why they were in the regions that they were. Then by 7 a.m., Toronto had actually dipped down to 7, and it was a distant memory by the time we got into the afternoon, and that temperature was up to 20 degrees in such pleasant conditions. But we're kind of seeing this next system as it moves in. Bands of rain coming in tonight and tomorrow into the Ottawa Valley. But we stay into that sector, that drier slot, and we get some sunshine in there until later in the day with clouds increasing. It means we're going to have a really nice day. The southerly flow, southwesterly flow will push our temperatures up. There is going to be some rain to talk about later in the weekend. I'll get into that. But tonight, a low of 13. How about this? Up to 25. Maybe not quite feeling like 30, but we are going to have a humidex tomorrow.
Thanks, Colette. Coming off last night's loss to the Yankees, the Blue Jays kicked off their series against the Baltimore Orioles in front of a home crowd tonight, their last series of the regular season.
And he drills it to left field, and the Blue Jays have the lead.
The action starts at the bottom of the third. Danny Jansen with this 2-run homer. A skip to the bottom of the 6th, and the Jays offense kick it into high gear. They'd score 4 runs in the inning. At top of the 8th, the Orioles get on the board and start to creep up on the Jays, scoring 4 runs, but it's 3 up, 3 down in the 9th to end it. Jays win 6-4. Game 2 goes tomorrow afternoon. As Ontario businesses continue the process of reopening, the recovery in downtown Toronto is lagging behind other cities across the GTA. Now this, according to new data released by the Toronto Board of Trade. Our Greg Ross explains.
We've done about 15%.
That's where sales are at Fernando Rigo's men's clothing store right now, compared to business before the pandemic. He owns Rigo Bespoke Clothiers, which is located downtown along the path.
Truly, the nature of this business is servicing the people that work here between Monday to Friday or Saturdays.
People would normally be working in these office towers, but since March 2020, most of them have been working from home, with only a handful returning to the office.
It's probably about 17% return to the core at this point in time, so we still have a long way to go.
Jen De Silva is the president and CEO of the Toronto Region Board of Trade. She says they compare data from cities across southern Ontario. In areas where there are a lot of factories and warehouses, the return to work was much quicker.
They needed to operate with staff on site to be able to function. That's deemed essential businesses.
That's not the case in downtown Toronto. As a result, many small businesses who rely on that workforce have had to halt operations or close permanently.
I think the longer this extends, we will see more failures.
De Silva says it's important for government to keep programs in place to help businesses like Rigo's.
The government support and a good landlord has enabled us to just kind of make it to where we are now and be hopeful to go ahead.
And he hopes to keep the business that his father started in 1986 moving forward and one day pass it on to his son. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Every race in the federal election has been officially decided, but the NDP candidate in Toronto's Davenport riding is calling for a recount. Official results have Alexandra Bravo losing to Liberal incumbent Julie Derowitz by 76 votes. Bravo says she was just 29 votes away from qualifying for an automatic recount by Elections Canada law. The Bravo campaign is concerned about a number of scrutineering issues it says occurred on Election Day and when special ballots were counted. Zarowich says she welcomes this recount and is confident she is the rightfully elected candidate. Welcome back. Close to 36 people at a Scarborough jail have tested positive for COVID-19. An outbreak at the East Toronto Detention Centre was first declared on the week of September 12th when 4 people contracted the virus. The outbreak grew to 17 cases last week. Now, since then, 17 additional inmates have tested positive for a total of 34 positive tests. The Ministry of the Solicitor General says all correctional facilities in the province have pandemic plans in place, including testing, isolation, and requiring all visitors to wear a mask. As a month-long strike by Ontario optometrists drags on, the Ministry of Health is offering a one-time payment of $39 million. The ministry says the funding is to support the delivery of eye care to patients, but the Ontario Association of Optometrists says it simply isn't enough.
Every time we see an OHIP patient, the government pays $40, $44 towards that, and we cover the rest of the cost. So it's not a sustainable solution. And we've asked the government to step up and publicly fund eye care like they do in many other provinces.
The OAO says eye care has been neglected for the last 3 decades through several governments. They add costs for eye exams have gone up, but funding for patients haven't been adjusted since the late 1980s. Optometrists now say they're digging into their own pockets to cover the costs. The Ministry of Health, in a statement to CBC News, says the OAO has declined a third-party mediation request to resume work negotiations. Around 500,000 people in Ontario earn the minimum wage. Well, today their pay rate went up by 10 cents an hour. But as Queen's Park reporter Mike Crawley explains, some are less than enthusiastic about that increase.
Brady Hacker earns minimum wage stocking shelves at a grocery store. He is getting a pay increase effective today, but he's not impressed with the size of it.
10 cents is if you work 40 hours a week, that's an extra $4 a week. That's not going to make any real difference for anyone, especially considering how prices have been going up over the last little while.
Hacker directs his frustration at Premier Doug Ford.
Considering his government spent a good solid chunk of this pandemic touting grocery store workers and other essential workers as absolute heroes, how dare he?
Today's 10-cent increase is the result of legislation from Ford's Progressive Conservatives shortly after they got elected. In 2018, the government froze Ontario's minimum wage at $14 an hour. Last year, it went up by 25 cents. Today's hike ticks the hourly rate up to $14.35.
I don't want to create an economy of minimum wage jobs. That's why, for example, I'm encouraging people to go into the skilled trades.
At a news conference this week at a Toronto brewery, the Labour Minister brushed off questions about the 10-cent increase.
293,000 jobs in Ontario are going unfilled. I think this is a great opportunity for workers out there to earn bigger paychecks.
The pandemic has created both opportunity and turmoil in the job market. While some firms are looking to hire skilled workers, many vacancies are at the lower end of the pay spectrum.
People cannot afford to make ends meet already, and certainly a 10-cent an hour minimum wage increase adds insult to injury.
The 10 cents, to be honest, is not a wage increase. It's basically an adjustment to deal with inflation.
Ontario's minimum wage is the 3rd highest among the provinces. In Alberta, it's $15 an hour, and in British Columbia, it's $15.20. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
Mainly clear this evening with a few cloudy periods overnight. Temperatures tonight milder than the last few nights. Right now it's 17 degrees in downtown Toronto. Let's go back to Colette now with a look at your extended forecast. And Colette, tomorrow looking to be a nice day to be outside. Temperatures warming up before the rains come.
Yeah, it really is of the 2 days, going to be the one that you have the better chance of getting out and being able to enjoy yourself without getting into any rainfall. But I'll kind of walk you through the timing on that. There may be a little spot into Sunday, too, where we're going to do okay. But let's take a look at what's happening Saturday. Yeah, push with the southwesterly flow. That's going to move those temperatures up there into the mid-20s. The changes come Sunday, although there are going to be some areas that's a little sooner than that. So I'm going to also show you that. You know, one of the side effects, though, is the system that's going to move in. Yeah, it's actually going to keep our overnight lows warmer, certainly than they were last night, because we're going to see some of that cloud cover pushing in. And we're going to see most of those overnight lows, at least in the GTA, staying in the double digits for a few days. So here's this wide arcing system in that frontal boundary to the north of us, and that's just going to feed the rainfall through the Ottawa Valley and into southern Quebec. They're going to get into some heavier rain there, perhaps by the time they get to Monday, 40, 50 millimeters or more. But in between, yes, more cloud cover into eastern Ontario, but pick it up from the GTA back to southwestern Ontario. This is Saturday morning. We'll have the sun. Clouds will increase, high thin clouds at first, though, so still will be decent back towards Windsor and Sarnia. But as we get later on into the evening hours, then more cloud cover and the rain showers begin. So they'll begin in southwestern Ontario Saturday evening through the overnight hours into Toronto. And then Sunday, there's that kind of drier slot where they're just a bit more isolated. However, there'll be another band of heavier rain that will move in later Sunday into Monday. So this one is going to stick around for a while and have some impact. Light at first in terms of the rainfall accumulations, but as we get from Sunday into Sunday night, from morning to night, you'll start to see those numbers possibly in the GTA getting up there, 20, 25 millimeters of rainfall. Temperatures, though, I said they're mild, and that's what I mean by mild. Looking pretty good, too, tomorrow. A little bit of humidity in southwestern Ontario. We're actually going to have a little more humidity into areas closer to Lake Ontario. So here's what we have for your overnight lows. And tomorrow, it's going to feel like we're into those upper 20s, maybe even 30 with that humidex value. And it's going to be the 2nd of October. But look at how long this system is going to stick around and have some kind of an impact on us into next week. Elda.
Thanks, Colette. And before we go tonight, take a look at this remarkable video of Hurricane Sam churning in the Caribbean, heading for Bermuda and the Bahamas. Scientists sent a robotic surfboard equipped with a drone inside the Category 4 storm yesterday in a first-of-its-kind mission to try and better understand hurricanes. And amazingly, it survived the turmoil. At the time this footage was shot, the drone was buffeted by winds approaching 200 kilometers per hour and 15-meter high waves. And that's our show for you tonight and for the week. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you back here on Monday. Have a great weekend, everyone.